Becoming a responsible and ethical user of GenAI means learning to understand how to use the technology's potential while engaging in responsible use and practices. As GenAI becomes increasingly integrated into our lives, understanding how to navigate its capabilities while considering its limitations and ethical implications is a must. Remember, at FC, each instructor will have an AI policy and it should be detailed in the course syllabus and/or assignment instructions. Make sure to follow the guidelines to avoid any appearance of academic dishonesty. GenAI has some pretty significant pros: enhanced learning, efficiency boost, and evolving innovative tools. That said, there are also some significant cons to consider in order to be a responsible user of GenAI. Over-reliance risk, biased outputs, privacy concerns, ethical dilemmas, mental health risks, and environmental impacts. Let's take a look at the potential impacts to learners. Data and privacy. Like almost all digital tools, GenAI tools collect and store data about users. By signing up to use GenAI tools, you entrust your personal information to the companies that provide these tools. The data collected may include user inputs, meaning the prompts that you type into the GenAI tool. Other user data that may be collected includes personal demographic information you use to create an account, as well as data collected during your interaction with the tools, such as geographic location and browsing history. Additionally, user data may be sold or shared with third parties for marketing and other purposes. Potential learner impacts. When interacting with GenAI tools, be cautious about supplying sensitive information, including personal data. You may unknowingly give access to personal information that could be used in ways that you did not anticipate or desire. Bias. Bias data in, bias data out is a simplistic but useful way to understand how GenAI tools create biased content. Existing bias, be it intentional or unintentional, in the datasets used to train large language models results in biased outputs. GenAI training data is derived from large amounts of publicly available data, including internet texts. Texts that contain human bias, such as stereotypes and discrimination, are used to train GenAI, making it likely that GenAI tools will perpetuate those same biases. In addition, datasets may be based on data that, while accurate, is biased in terms of how it was collected or presented. Potential learner impacts. It is essential to evaluate GenAI outputs and address any potential biases critically. Additionally, you can mitigate bias by writing prompts that explicitly discourage bias. Hallucinations. GenAI models sometimes produce incorrect, biased, or outdated information. In some cases, a GenAI tool will state that it is unable to provide a correct answer, but in other cases, it may generate a false answer that appears to be correct. This is known as a hallucination. For example, GenAI tools sometimes fabricate citations to non-existent sources in an attempt to provide the user with an answer to their query. This issue is compounded because companies often do not disclose the data used to train a GenAI model, meaning GenAI cannot accurately cite its sources. Given this, GenAI content should always be evaluated for credibility. Potential learner impacts. Verify the accuracy of AI-generated content using credible sources before incorporating it into your work. Similarly, check GenAI outputs to avoid using or spreading misinformation. Copyright and intellectual property. Numerous lawsuits for copyright infringement have been brought against companies like OpenAI, Microsoft, and Google, which produce GenAI tools. These lawsuits allege that the companies use copyrighted works, such as art, books, and other copyrighted materials to train their large language models without proper authorization. As the legal landscape surrounding GenAI continues to evolve, we should consider our personal use of GenAI concerning copyright and intellectual property. Users who submit content to GenAI platforms through prompts or uploads may unintentionally grant rights to their work or infringe the rights of others. Review the terms of service for GenAI tools before uploading copyrighted materials to ensure you understand the permissions and implications. Potential learner impacts. Be wary how much of your own work you submit to a GenAI tool, as you are likely granting them rights to use your content. You may also risk violating copyright law when you submit another's copyrighted work into a tool without permission. Environmental impacts. GenAI use consumes significant amounts of energy and, as the industry has taken off, has already raised environmental concerns. According to a report by Goldman Sachs, on average, a ChatGPT query needs nearly 10 times as much electricity to process as a Google search. In that difference lies a coming sea change in how the US, Europe, and the world at large will consume power, and how much that will cost. While GenAI tools offer many benefits, each query, especially for image generation, uses more energy than a traditional search engine. Potential learner impacts. While research is being conducted to explore ways to make GenAI more sustainable, at this point, the use of GenAI poses a known environmental cost. Be mindful when you use GenAI. Ask yourself, is your use of GenAI worth the environmental impact? Availability and equitable access. GenAI companies are increasingly requiring payment for users to use their tools or use premium features. This creates barriers for those who cannot afford the technology and also creates inequitable experiences with GenAI tools. Additionally, not all GenAI tools are accessible for people who use screen readers or other assistive technologies, which creates further barriers to equitable access. Potential learner impacts. GenAI tools may become available only to those who can afford them, creating an unfair advantage. This situation, in turn, may contribute to biased or misleading GenAI outcomes. Academic integrity. At FC, as with other colleges and universities, representing any work that you did not create yourself is a violation of academic integrity. But what about using GenAI to draft a paper from an outline the author has written? Or using GenAI during the copy editing stage of writing? Where this issue becomes challenging is determining whether GenAI is being used to support and augment learning or to replace the learning process altogether. It is noteworthy that schools, colleges, departments, and even individual faculty have varying rules and guidelines around GenAI usage. Potential learner impacts. The line between using GenAI to support learning and as a substitute for it is not always an easy one to draw. Check with your instructors for course policies regarding the use of GenAI. It is also imperative to properly cite and never simply copy and paste directly from GenAI. Risk of trusting GenAI for life coaching, mental health guidelines, and more. GenAI tools are designed to process and generate human-like text, which can make them feel like you're having a conversation with a person. Because of this conversational ability and a perception that what is being shared is just with the GenAI tool and not the company behind it, some people have turned to GenAI for use as a life coach, mental health counselor, friend, and even romantic partner. Depending on how one interacts with it, GenAI can be flattering and encouraging, sometimes in potentially harmful ways, in its responses to the user. While some GenAI applications may be developed with safety guidelines in mind, there's a significant risk when learners turn to general-purpose GenAI for sensitive topics such as making significant life decisions or seeking mental health support. Some, but not all, GenAI tools lack necessary safeguards and can potentially encourage destructive behaviors, including self-harm or even suicide, by providing unhelpful, inappropriate, or harmful responses. It is highly recommended that you do not use GenAI tools for mental health-related issues. These tools are not substitutes for human interaction, advice from family and friends, or guidance from qualified professionals. To recap, GenAI offers a wealth of tools that can support your learning journey. Keep in mind that data inputs need to be used responsibly. For commercial tools like ChatGPT, generally what you put into the system is not confidential and may be used for any number of purposes. This means your prompts, questions, and uploaded files could be used to improve their models. While this helps enhance the GenAI's performance, it also means that your input data may not remain private and could influence content generated for other users. Therefore, it is essential to exercise extreme caution and never share sensitive or confidential information when using these publicly available tools. Regarding data outputs, OpenAI's terms typically assign ownership of the generated output to you. However, this comes with a significant responsibility. You are accountable for ensuring that any AI-generated content you use complies with OpenAI's terms, as well as all applicable laws and regulations. Given that GenAI outputs often lack citations or attributions, it's challenging to assess their credibility or confirm the absence of copyrighted material. For these reasons, consider AI-generated content as a starting point for ideas and always validate facts and attribute information before incorporating it into your work. Remember, you are ultimately responsible for the content you produce. To uphold academic integrity, you should abide by the course policies set by your instructors and be transparent in the use of GenAI in the completion of your coursework. This means always confirming with your instructor how GenAI can or cannot be used in the course. This might entail disclosing and documenting the use of GenAI resources, disclosing the inclusion of GenAI content, explaining your contribution to the final product, and more, depending upon the course policy. When you do use GenAI, it should be cited. Both MLA and APA have citation formats for GenAI usage. As always, remember it is extremely important that you as a student read the syllabus carefully as well as the instructions for each assignment to see to what extent, if any, you can use GenAI. In the next section, we will examine GenAI and learning.